All right, so let's get this. We're diving into a story that's, I mean, it's bizarre, but also strangely compelling, you know.
Okay. I'm intrigued.
It's 1963, right? America is still reeling, still in shock from JFK's assassination.
Right.
And then, as if things couldn't get any weirder,
Yeah.
Frank Sinatra Jr. gets kidnapped.
Oh, wow.
You know, old Blue Eyes' son.
Yeah, yeah.
Talk about a crazy time to be alive.
What a time.
So we're going to try and make sense of it all today.
Okay.
We've got some pretty interesting sources for this deep dive.
Okay.
Actual FBI record.
Wow. So we're getting the official version.
Yeah, giving us that side of things.
Yeah.
And then this YouTube channel,
Oh.
all about classic music trivia.
Huh, interesting.
Which adds like a whole other layer to the story.
Okay, so we've got kind of a unique angle on this.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
So we're going to uncover what really happened in this audacious crime.
It really captures the anxieties of that era, doesn't it?
It does.
1963 was just turmoil. And this kidnapping, just days after the Kennedy assassination, must have just intensified,
Oh, yeah.
those feelings of vulnerability and uncertainty in the country.
Absolutely. Okay, so imagine this.
Okay.
It's December 8th, 1963,
All right.
at Harrah's Club Lodge
Okay.
in Lake Tahoe.
Got it.
Frank Sinatra Jr., only 19 years old at this point,
Wow.
is trying to make a name for himself as a singer,
Okay.
following in his father's footsteps, right?
Sure. Yeah.
And Harrah's back then was a major celebrity hotspot.
Oh, I bet.
It wasn't just any hotel.
Yeah.
It was the place to be seen.
So how did these two guys, Keenan and Amsler, how did they manage to pull off a kidnapping at a place like Harrah's?
Right.
Especially with security, heightened everywhere.
Yeah, that's a great question. And honestly, the FBI files, they kind of paint a comical picture.
Okay.
These two were former classmates.
Huh.
Not seasoned criminals or anything.
Right.
They show up with a fake package.
Okay.
Burst into Sinatra Jr.'s dressing room.
Oh, wow.
Tie up his friend with tape, blindfold Sinatra Jr., and sneak him out a side door.
It almost sounds too absurd to be true.
All right.
Especially given the climate. You have to wonder if maybe the nation's attention being so fixed on the Kennedy assassination somehow allowed this kidnapping to slip through the cracks initially.
That's an interesting thought. And hold on, there's another layer to this.
Okay.
Already unbelievable story.
Okay.
Imagine this. Keenan and Amsler are driving away with Sinatra Jr. When they get pulled over by the police.
What? No way.
I know.
What happened?
What happens next is even more surprising.
Okay, I'm on the edge of my seat.
So I'm curious about that police encounter.
Yeah.
Were they incredibly convincing?
Yeah.
Or were the officers just completely distracted by everything else going on? Unfortunately, the FBI files, they don't reveal what was said.
Oh, bummer.
But somehow,
Yeah.
Keenan and Amsler bluffed their way through.
Wow.
And made it to their hideout in L.A.
Okay.
Then comes the ransom demand.
Okay.
$240,000.
Wow. That's a lot of money.
Which, to put it in perspective, would be millions today.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely.
Frank Sinatra Sr., desperate to get his son back,
Of course.
cooperates fully with the FBI.
Okay.
They take photos of the money, track the serial numbers,
Smart.
and get ready for the drop.
This is where the FBI file gets really interesting.
It does.
It actually includes photos of the ransom suitcase.
I know.
And the drop-off location.
I know, it's crazy.
They chose a spot between two school buses in Sepulveda, California.
It's so strange.
What a bizarre choice, don't you think?
Right. Why there? What was the strategy?
It's actually pretty clever when you think about it.
Okay.
It's public enough to discourage a double cross.
Right.
But also relatively anonymous.
Okay.
Remember, this is before surveillance cameras were everywhere.
Right.
The kidnappers could blend in, grab the suitcase, and vanish.
Yeah.
It suggests at least some level of planning,
Right.
despite their amateurish execution.
Now, while all this is happening,
Okay.
their third accomplice, John Irwin,
Right?
he's supposed to be the link
Okay.
between the kidnappers and Sinatra Sr.
Yeah.
But suddenly Irwin gets cold feet.
Oh, wow.
Maybe the pressure was too much.
Yeah.
Maybe he just had a change of heart.
Right.
Whatever the reason, he decides to release Sinatra Jr.
Really?
before the ransom is even paid.
That's a huge turning point.
It is?
Imagine the reaction from Keenan and Amsler.
I know.
They risked everything for this ransom,
Right.
and suddenly their plan is falling apart.
And the way Sinatra Jr. is released is almost as strange as the kidnapping itself.
Oh, wow. Okay.
He's just left to walk through Bel Air.
What?
He eventually flags down a security guard,
Okay.
And get this, they decide the safest place for him is the trunk of the patrol car.
The trunk.
The trunk.
It seems odd, but considering the assassination just days earlier, everyone was on edge,
Yeah.
Maybe in that climate of fear, even a decision like putting Sinatra Jr. in a trunk, felt like the right call at the time.
Right.
It's a strange reflection of the national mood.
It is. Finding Sinatra Jr. in a trunk is kind of a strange twist.
Yeah.
Considering his father's, rumored mob ties.
Right, of course.
It makes you wonder if there was an element of fear that went beyond just the national mood at the time.
A Sinatra in a trunk?
I know.
The irony isn't lost on me.
So Sinatra Jr.'s safe.
Good.
But the FBI is closing in.
Okay.
Irwin's brother may be feeling guilty or scared.
Mm-hmm.
Tips off the bureau.
Oh, wow.
They locate the hideout.
All right.
Find Keenan and Amsler.
Mm-hmm.
And recover most of the ransom money.
Wow, so they got them. Yeah, they acted swiftly. You can imagine the pressure they were under to solve this case, especially with Sinatra's fame and influence.
Yeah, absolutely. And here's where it gets even crazier.
Okay.
During the trial, the defense attorney actually tries to claim that the whole kidnapping was a publicity stunt.
What?
Orchestrated by Sinatra Jr. himself.
Oh, come on.
I know.
That's a stretch.
Right.
The argument fell apart pretty quickly, I bet.
Yeah, it did. The FBI had a confession letter from Keenan, which pretty much sealed their fate.
Wow. Talk about a desperate move.
Right. But you know what really surprised me?
What's that?
The sentences they received.
Yeah, considering the seriousness of the crime and Sinatra's connections.
Right.
You'd think they would have gotten harsher penalties.
Exactly. They got off pretty lightly, all things considered.
It makes you wonder why.
It does.
Maybe the national mood at the time played a role.
Yeah.
The country was still grieving Kennedy's assassination, focused on bigger issues.
Right.
And perhaps the fact that Sinatra Jr. wasn't hurt influenced the judge's decision.
That's a really good point, and it's a fascinating aspect of this story.
Right.
This case, despite its high profile, it ultimately faded from public memory.
Yeah.
We remember the kidnapping.
Right.
But we rarely hear about the aftermath.
That's true.
What happened to Frank Sinatra Jr.?
Yeah.
Did this experience have a lasting impact on his career?
It's a great point. Our sources don't really delve into Sinatra Jr.'s life after the kidnapping.
Right.
But it's definitely worth exploring.
Yeah.
Imagine going through something so traumatic at such a young age.
Yeah.
Especially when you're just starting out in such a public career, like singing.
I can't even imagine. Did he ever speak about it publicly? Did it affect his relationships, his trust in people?
And what about the kidnappers?
Right.
What happened to Keenan Amsler and Irwin after their release? They served their time, and then what?
Right.
Did they return to their normal lives?
Yeah.
Did they ever express remorse for what they did?
These are questions our sources don't answer, but they're incredibly thought-provoking.
Yeah.
It's interesting that this case, which was huge news at the time, seems to have been forgotten.
Mm-hmm.
Why do you think that happened?
It's an intriguing question, perhaps, because Sinatra Jr. was unharmed.
Right.
And the kidnappers were caught. Yeah. Maybe in the grand scheme of things, with events like the Kennedy assassination and the escalating Vietnam War, this kidnapping just became a footnote in a turbulent decade.
It seems like it got lost in the chaos of history.
Yeah.
Overshadowed by other events, but the human element of this story is undeniable.
It is.
These three young men, motivated by who knows what greed, desperation, maybe even a misguided sense of adventure, decide to kidnap the son of one of the most famous men in the world.
It's crazy.
And then there's Sinatra Jr. thrust into this terrifying situation, and his father, Frank Sinatra Sr., pulling out all the stops to get his son back.
It's a powerful reminder.
It is.
That even amidst, global events and historical shifts, individual lives are deeply impacted by seemingly random acts, by the choices people make and the consequences that follow.
Absolutely. It's like this personal high-stakes drama unfolding against the backdrop of just larger chaos and uncertainty.
Yeah.
It makes you wonder how this same kidnapping would play out in today's world.
Oh, that's interesting.
With social media and instant news.
Everything would be different, wouldn't it?
Oh, totally.
The news would spread like wildfire, fueled by speculation and rumors.
Oh, the pressure on the FBI would be immense.
Oh, yeah.
With every step of the investigation scrutinized in real time.
And think about the impact on Sinatra Jr.
Right.
He would be bombarded with messages, interview requests, opinions from strangers, all while trying to cope with this traumatic experience.
It's almost unimaginable. And those kidnappers,
Yeah.
they wouldn't stand a chance of remaining anonymous.
Not at all.
Even if they tried, their digital footprints would likely give them away.
For sure, it's a reminder of how much the world has changed.
It really is.
Technology has reshaped our lives.
Yeah.
In both positive and negative ways.
Yeah, it makes you wonder if a kidnapping like that would even be possible today.
It's a good question. You know, the level of surveillance today,
right,
both public and private, is exponentially greater than it was back then. It's hard to imagine, a similar kidnapping unfolding without immediate and widespread attention.
And that kind of brings us back to the power of this story. It might seem like a relic of a bygone era.
Yeah.
But it raises questions that are still relevant today.
Absolutely. It highlights, I think, that enduring fascination we have with true crime,
Yeah.
Even though this case faded from the headlines, it still captures our imagination.
It does.
It forces us to confront that darker side of human nature, What motivates these audacious acts?
Right, and beyond the crime itself, it makes you think about the impact on everyone involved,
Yeah.
Those unanswered questions about Sinatra Jr. and the kidnappers, they kind of linger.
They do.
Did they ever truly move on from this experience?
We can speculate, of course.
Right.
Did Sinatra Jr. use this trauma as fuel for his ambition, to prove himself as a singer?
Yeah.
Or did it leave him with a sense of vulnerability that he carried throughout his life?
And the kidnappers.
Right.
They served their relatively short sentences.
Yeah.
But did they ever fully grasp the gravity of their actions? Did they carry that weight with them after they were released?
It's a reminder that these historical events, even the ones that fade from public memory,
Yeah.
involve real people whose lives are forever changed.
It really highlights the importance of digging deeper,
Absolutely.
going beyond just the surface of the story.
Right.
The official reports and the news coverage, they only give us a limited perspective.
For sure.
It's in those unanswered questions and the spaces between the lines that we find the most intriguing and thought-provoking aspects.
It reminds us that history is never truly settled.
Right.
There's always more to uncover, more perspectives to consider, more connections to be made.
Yeah.
Just like with this deep dive,
Right.
What seemed like a straightforward kidnapping case opened up a whole world of questions about fame and justice and the power of individual choices.
So there you have it, the strange but captivating story of the Frank Sinatra Jr. kidnapping.
It really is fascinating.
It's a story that transports us back to a turbulent time in American history.
Yeah.
A time of fear and uncertainty.
Yeah.
But it's also a story that resonates today.
Absolutely.
Reminding us of just the enduring complexities of human nature.
And it leaves us with a powerful message.
Yeah.
History is more than just dates and events.
Right.
It's about people, their choices, and the ripple effects that those choices create. It's a story that continues to unfold even decades later, inviting us to reflect and learn from the past.
Exactly. And who knows, maybe somewhere out there in a dusty archive or a forgotten interview, there are answers to those lingering questions about Sinatra Jr., the kidnappers, and the impact this event had on their lives. But until then, we'll keep exploring, keep digging, and keep those conversations going.
Absolutely.